All right, that was a lot smoother than a lot of my other intro plugs. All right, everybody. This morning, I love doing these in the morning, by the way. I am joined by Dredge of Spawn of Psychosis. How are we doing, man?
I'm good, man. You good?
I am good. I got a good night's sleep finally. Didn't toss and turn, so I'm primed and ready. I just had a ding noise. What was that?
That was my phone, I think.
Oh, okay. I was like, do I have comments already? Speaking of comments, gonna bring the tab up so I can see. Ah, there's JT already.
He's there straight away.
Yeah, you can always rely on JT. He's gonna just like me with his. I try and be at every single one because he's my bro.
Yeah, man. Same. Dirty Brit.
Yeah.
God damn American JT, like.
Yeah. And by the way, JT, I since you're watching this, about I'd say on 3 or so separate occasions, I sent Chris a DM on Facebook about a time, only to have him be like, "You got the wrong time, bro." And I'm like, "What?"
You're like,
yeah,
over an hour early, like.
I guess you could say I'm eager, but really, it's just I can't tell time.
Well, you know.
It's amazing that I've been able to be on time for everything else. Wait, what? It's a shame he can't say aluminum or write dates properly. I can't say aluminum? What?
Aluminium. Please,
Aluminium. Oh, okay.
Not aluminum. It's aluminium. And it should be.
I'm illiterate too, I guess.
Date of the month, then the year. That's how it's meant to be. I don't know how you guys have ended up where you're at, but that's not how you started. Like,
yeah. We're probably never gonna change that, by the way. My wife's asking if it's live yet, and I'm like, yes. All right, a little bit off a sign tangent there that we went off on. Of late, what's Dredge been up to?
Well, boring day job, and actually, no, my day job's not that boring. But in terms of music, working on new stuff that I've been trying to sort of get going on again for a little while. Decided to haven't set a date yet, but I'm getting the motions together to release a new track. Started mixing it and stuff, or doing my mix notes, and then I get my buddy Graham Waller, he's basically produced like 95% of Spawn and Psychosis stuff throughout the years. So yeah, just getting those sort of things together, really. And,
I like his work.
He's very good. He's very good.
I'm excited for that new material. I went and listened to the new ones that you've put out recently enough, and I like the direction you're going. It's sounding really good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's it's a bit of generally, you know, because obviously now, I mean, Spawn Psychosis at one point was a live band. We gigged lots in London, and then it's kind of various things. Life happened, and it's just me again, which is, you know, it's fine. I have to kind of be creative to keep myself slightly sane. But you know, we generally would like release albums or EPs. You know, it'd be, you know, a set of songs all meant to be together. So but obviously the recent stuff was all singles, with the idea of eventually putting them all together on a physical release at some point. So that's been was a bit weird to get my head around, just doing a song and kind of having like a month and a half of kind of promoting it and stuff. But it's also been good because it's allowed me to kind of just keep going and, you know, be relevant or whatever, you know, having stuff out there. So
yeah. I was going to ask you if that works a little bit better for you, because I've talked to some other folks that I've had on, and they say that not having so much of a workload as far as like versus like a single or an EP or an album, the single and album EP route is typically a lot easier for them. And they, not in every case, but the EP, if it's an EP that they do, there's more cohesion and there's more focus in the songs, because they could focus on just like those batch of like 3 to 5 songs, you know, and just hone them in. Is that the case for you as well? Just less of a workload for you since it's just you?
It's kind of, yeah, I mean, when really I approached it in the same way as a starting point, as if I was doing an EP or an album, in that, because the original idea was the songs I've released since, you know, last year and the year before were meant to be together, so there was kind of a theme still connecting them, but at the same time it has also, as you say, it has been a bit easier and a bit again, this notion of kind of putting material back out there after sort of quite a long time of not doing it as a song, a release, obviously is far better than
Right.
a lot of I'm back, we're doing stuff, well, I've got an album coming, and because life gets in the way, and then that album that you think or EP that you think you get done in, you know, 6 months because you've already got the material like written, you just need to record it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it goes on and on and on, and then you sort of go, well, actually, all I'm doing is saying stuff's happening, but I'm not actually to the kind of fans that have stuck around, or even like potential new fans of the music. It's just a lot of I'm doing a thing, promise, right, and there's no thing. So it's kind of, you know, but again, even releasing singles, there is like a still kind of a semi-narrative / kind of idea behind it all that was kind of weaving it all together in the end. So
okay, the most recent one, I hope I don't get this wrong. Why am I not seeing it popping up on here? Wasn't it Kathy?
So the most recent release was the remix of Proof of Diagnosis with
that's right
and Strike Eagle. But yeah, the most recent just original song, is not a remix, would have been Kathy.
Yeah. Kathy comes off as kind of like it's very dark, and I understand why, because you explain it in the detail of the song on your Bandcamp. Do you gravitate towards writing about stuff like this because I mean, you could say there's bands that do write about, but there's also a lot of bands that shy away from wanting to write about and shed light on stuff like this. Is this kind of like an intentional thing for you when you go out and you start writing a song, like what you frame it around, like dark versus like happier stuff, or how do you typically go about stringing something together lyrically?
So, I guess generally it's always fallen into one of two camps, really, for myself, which is literally writing about my own experiences in my life, or writing about something, you know, else within the wider scope of life, an event, or you know, my take on an event. You know, be that either, you know, what's politically going on, or with the case of Kathy, it's literally, you know, learning about something that happened in the real world,
right,
that has, you know, triggered something in me, and I have a feeling towards it, and just in it, you know, inspires me to write it. I'm always very careful though to not. I don't think there's any issue in any artist, be they musician or animator or any of the arts, wanting to do something based off of a real world event that is perhaps dark or controversial. Mm-hmm. But I do think there's kind of a right way and a wrong way to do it, and sometimes you don't know if you're doing it the right or wrong way. Sometimes I've seen things where I feel I've been done the wrong way and are a bit kind of done to just get a shock factor.
Yeah, shock value.
Yeah,
so Marilyn Manson used to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, rock and roll, that's one of the fundamental pillars of rock and roll, be it metal, punk, or just rock and roll, is an element of shock to society. I was careful with Kathy to not. I didn't want to come across as if I was trying to make some sort of a quick buck off of something, you know. I was making people to just be like, you know, this is a true story. It's a terrible story.
It is
how a young woman lost her life, who just happened to be a nun. Really, it's kind of, it shouldn't be the main point, but it ties into the wider story of what that was about. And I tried to just kind of do her justice in a way. I've just been like, this happened, and there are a lot of unanswered questions, and I was very careful to not fall into the trap of making accusations. I was very careful in how I were a few of the original drafts of some of the lyrics. I was kind of dipping into that a little bit too much, and I was like, I need to kind of steer away from that, because it's still an unsolved case. So I'm not in a position to be making claims or accusations. So but no, so I've always been very much, it's first-hand experience, or the experiences of people I know, or the things and experiences and opinions of the world in a wider sense.
That's a good thing, man. And I think you're right. Not being. I've heard songs in the past and recently where they've written about something that's gone on, and they almost make it come across like, so here's what happened. This is how it should have been handled, or how it should have been covered. And if you don't agree with this point of view, you're wrong, and they're very like in your face about it.
Yeah. There have been some sort of underground bands that I've sort of stumbled across in recent times on things like TikTok or whatever, and like, I like what they do and stuff, and I don't have any issue with the topics they've done for a song. But there's been times of these as well that I've sort of gone, I get it, I get what you're saying, that's totally fine, but you're sort of kind of pushing it in a way, you're actually kind of undermining the point you're trying to make, because you kind of, and it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that even with Kathy or anything that I've ever written, which was about, that I've done it the right or wrong way, but I always feel that I've tried to do it the right way for how I view it, because I've been very aware of when I've seen something that I felt has been done in the wrong way, if that makes sense. Aware of how I would judge something, about certain topics or whatever. So
well, the fact you go into it that way is meaning you care to not be the wrong way about it, and I think that's admirable, and absolutely 100% correct way to go about it. I've tried to do it myself in the past. I've never released anything, but I've posted up lyrics in the past, and I've been a little bit too blunt at times with some of the stuff I've covered. Like I used to, before I even knew JT, before I knew you, this is years back. I think when it was around the time I met my wife, I would post things up about like suicides, and just how I couldn't understand how they would leave that kind of hurt and emptiness and who it affects, right? And that cared about them. And like, if I look at that stuff from years back today and the kind of mindset that I have about, just not just like suicide, but just things that are stigmatized, I'm like, wow, that guy's kind of an asshole to have that kind of thought process about something that at the time I didn't completely understand why it even goes on, And I would post up things literally where I'm basically talking at whoever I was aiming it at on Facebook, and it's just coming off in such a just douchey way, and it's kind of one of those things where like, as long as you learn from what you used to do and like in that kind of way and apply it to today, I think it's kind of, it's not always everybody that kind of, learns from, their past self, if you know what I'm trying to get across here. I guess my point I'm trying to make is that if you do that, I hope that in some point you realize where you went wrong with it and you kind of course correct yourself. Because you don't want to dig yourself into a hole where people just completely write you off,
Yeah, you've we all grow, we all learn. Well, hopefully we learn. And yeah, I mean, I've Yeah, I have a history of being very blunt and not doing it in a way to be like, I think your band sucks, right? But in the past, especially in the early days, of having a bit, getting Spawn Psychosis, actually playing gigs and all the rest of it, of butting heads with people because of being like, I totally cool, good luck with your band, but it's not for me because I'm always like, I think there's a difference between going, this band sucks, and I think this band sucks because, like, there's a difference. But again, my my 20-year-old self was a bit too blunt and a bit too honest, and I'm probably still am too honest and too blunt. And that caused issues which were quite detrimental towards me, and kind of what we were trying to do as a band. But then at the same time, it kind of spurred me to be like, you know what, we're not doing what like our local scene expects us to do, which was kind of at the time, all those years ago, like there was sort of like a hierarchy kind of thing of like, this is the local band that great, everyone loves them, and then so they are top dog, and then everyone falls underneath, and you don't just jump ahead, you stick to follow the thing. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I kind of want to just get out there. And one of the main ethoses of the band was just, it kind of ties in with the Psychosis, this idea of we just make what we make. We always like, we make what we make. We're just as likely to just do an acoustic song as we are to do some really fast, flashy, industrial hybrid thing. It was always, what do we think of it? Do we like it? Cool. That's it. We used to get, we got lots of stick because our drums, even to this day, programs, the drum machines, computer software, and we used that live in in various kind of iterations, but it was always like a drum machine or a laptop or something, or a mixing desk. And it wasn't because we were like, we don't want a drummer. Our thing was like, we want to get out there and make music and play gigs and connect with people. So we basically put ourselves out there and were able to kind of jump the queue in a way, and we just went, no, we're not doing the local thing. We're not. We did a couple of local things way back, at the start, and then we were like, yeah, we're not doing this routine. We're not doing these local gigs or pubs. We're gonna go to London, and we're gonna try and we went to we networked, and that's how we were able to play London gigs. We supported KMFDM at the Islington in London.
That's a big accomplishment, I would say.
It was a big gig. We were like first on, like hardly anyone was there, but we were like, it's not the point. I was also very much like, and gigging can be hard, and some gigs you get there and don't when we played this, we got there and we're like, we're literally going to play to 5 people.
Yeah.
And I was always like, and I was trying to kind of encourage the guys in the band. I was like, it doesn't matter if it's 5 people or 500. We're here to do a thing. We're here to do a have fun with it. We would mess up on stage. Someone would miss a note, or I'd forget lyrics, and we would just laugh it off.
Yeah, I mean, just have a laugh about it.
I was notorious for interacting with the crowd because I'm like, why not? In funny ways, and sometimes I didn't really know what the hell was going on. But we went and did that, and it was just like, we're here to do a thing and enjoy it, and just do it. I'm going to be like, hey, we're being in a band, but we're only going to do what everyone else does. We're like, no, let's chuck ourselves in the deep end.
That's the right way to go about it. I wouldn't conform to what everybody else is doing either if I was out there doing it, because I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Then again, like if a major label approaches you, that's what they're going to tell you to do is, hey, we need you to be a little bit more like this, because right now that's what's popular on radio and on the circuit, for touring and gigging. So we need you to kind of, conform to that. I've always been against that with music, anything in life. Like, not to say that to a point, there's things that I haven't kind of bent in favor to and conformed in some fashion to, but more often than not, I'm more in favor of people that just go out there and be them. And like I said, offline or backstage or whatever you want to call it for this, that's what I like about Spawn Psychosis, because it's unorthodox. I hope that's the right word. And it's not typical. And before I forget to mention it, JT said that constant growth is the death of ignorance. And then he said to you, damn elitist. And then conform or die. And that is the mainstream for sure for music. If you don't conform, your career dies. But screw that, right? Just be you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like I said, yeah, we upset the apple cart. Let's just put it that way. And sometimes, as you know, it actually was very detrimental to me personally. There was a lot of hate and stuff, and of a ridiculous level, and that kind of messed me up a bit. And my bandmates had to sort of like pick me up from time to time and be like, "No, man, just let's just get out there and do it." And now I wouldn't have had it any other way. Like those years of gigging in London and that, and with the bands we played with, were like, I wouldn't change it for a world. So lots of random stories and fun events and stuff. So which is what it's all about, you know.
It is. It is. I wanted to bring up Shadows only because you'd mentioned in a DM to me when I said how much I like that song, that it's a lot more relevant to you now than it was when you wrote it. And I wanted to ask you what reasons kind of made it that way for that song for you now.
So how can I word this? Oh, I'll just be straight honest with it. It's kind of a dark subject, people. Strap yourselves in. But so I wrote that when I was 30, 31. Been 2014, 2015-ish. And the basic concept of the song at the time was when I was a lot younger, I kind of through the various things that I've been through, I kind of told myself one day when I was, I don't know, late teens probably, that if things didn't get better by the time I was 30, it would be like, oh, it's all for nothing kind of thing.
Right.
And by the time I was 30, things were better. So it was a song about the idea of you grow and
right,
get better, but there is always the shadows of yourself behind you, and the doubt and the worry and the kind of the past. And
right.
So that's what was going on when I wrote it. And then 2-3 years after kind of writing it, I mean, it's off the Ministry Transition album, which came out in 2015. But obviously, it was written a couple of years. It was written before
right
release, obviously. But within a year of the album coming out, life had other plans for me, and kind of it all went wrong again. So it's one of those things where when I listen to it, it's kind of like it came back around, sort of thing.
Right.
And it's sort of like even more relevant for me now than when it was written, kind of thing. So
yeah, it's like I love that you put it as track 12 because I think it's an awesome album capper or ending for the kind of subject matter and just kind of the way the album flows. I listened to it when I first heard it, I think at least 20 plus times. Like I specifically like to re-listen to the build up to the heavy parts, right? I love the grit that you get in your voice and at that point. And it sounds so cool. Like it's like, so I've said this to JT and I hope that you take it in the same way. When I say that you don't have a pretty voice, he doesn't have a pretty voice, right? But the voice you have is awesome for what you do. And it works really well for what you do. And that's not saying that you can't sing either, by the way. It's it works for what you do, and that's what I think people fail to connect. When you said that people have hated on your voice a lot, and it's like, well, why do people always expect something that sounds pretty or something that's always just like holding those nice sounding notes and all that? They're kind of missing the point of what making music is and does for the person that's making it, right? You're very self-aware, I would think, about your voice, and you're not out there trying to be like a freaking who's a person that's like really popular, like I'm blanking. Let's just say like a boy band singer, right? That's not you. But I think it's in Ministry of Transition, and this is where I made the Rush comparison with you. When you go to the higher register in your voice, right? If people heard that hate your voice, that know Rush, they probably have a little bit more respect for you because you're singing in just about the same exact register as what Geddy Lee does in most of their material. And it's like, I'm bringing it up because I don't think people realize that you're not singing in that, like that kind of like spoken way, I guess I'd say, because that's the only way you can sing. But it's what's fitting the mood of a song, right? And they may not have heard when you change it up in Ministry of Transition, right? Because that's just another side of your voice. And I'm saying this because I'm hoping in future material that you use your higher register more, because I think it's awesome, right? Like, you really have a great singing voice for that higher register when you use it. And I think you would do justice to a Rush song, by the way. You really could sing a Rush song. Like, I think you'd nail it.
I mean, the whole thing with my voice is, like I said just a minute ago, like, one of the main things was always with Spawn and Psychosis was we just do what we do, right? And there was also the element of you make do what you got.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was never my intention to be a vocalist. Spawn and Psychosis literally just started originally as just I was playing guitar, wanted to join a band. I made little demo tapes, actual demo tapes, and the idea was just like, and I like would then get like the sleeve of an actual cassette tape, lay it out flat on some paper, draw a template, then I drew all the artwork on that template, then I photocopied it like proper DIY. So it was just like I make a demo, find a band. And as that kind of went on and no one was really interested, and I, as much as I'm kind of the sort of new metal era, like Korn and Disturbed and all that, I kind of went in a weird sort of back around. I kind of like growing up, I was exposed to like Black Sabbath and early Metallica and stuff, but I didn't kind of realize it at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when I'm a teenager, getting into myself, that's when you kind of thing, Korn and Linkin Park and Papa Roach and all that. And then I kind of went backwards, and I went back.
Yeah.
Metallica, they're my favorite band. I like everything they've put out of their main releases, even Saint Anger and Load and Reload and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So because of all that, by the time I'm now playing guitar, want to form a band, everybody locally was kind of just, at the time I was kind of doing this, like new metal, at least here in the UK,
right?
Still, obviously, but what was kind of becoming more of the thing was what we over here kind of class as like hardcore bands. The imagery was very different, and it was becoming all about the more ridiculous drop-tuned guitars. The vocals. I like bands. Some bands I like do harsh vocals, but for me, it's always been it's got to be a bit more than that. It can't just be unaudible kind of grunts and whatever. There's got to be like some sort of transition in within that, or the riff, or the the guitar riff's really good, so it all makes sense. And down here at that point, bands starting up were very much kind of just it would just always feel like they were trying to do sort of a quick fix of kind of like, we'll just drop tune the guitars, have a sing with grunts and growls and screams and stuff, and that's enough. So, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was like, well, okay, I'll just do it myself then, and kind of get a drum machine, and then doing the vocals, because I was writing lyrics. But even then, it was just about so I could show someone the idea. Do you know what I mean? And then like we'd find a vocalist and we'd find this. That it was just to show the idea. But as it kind of went on, and I was at art college at the time, so I'm tying it in with this idea of like, oh, well, I can make art stuff that connects to this music, because then it's all part of a portfolio, and it all just sort of like kind of starts linking together. And yeah, like anyone, when you start kind of doing music, or whatever, you mimic the bands you're into, sort of unintentionally, So right. All the early stuff's very James Hetfield, like. I didn't have any lessons. I was just from
right.
Eventually, I ruined my voice. I got laryngitis, and I just lost my voice. And then
I've had that.
And I'm like, you know what? This is exactly what like James Hetfield did in the early days, and all these other artists. His name, I forgot his name now. The front man of Bullet from a Valentine, he did the same.
Matt Tuck.
That's it. He blew his voice out, and thought he thought that was it. It was done. So then I went and I had a friend. So basically, by the time we get to ministry,
buddy, get down. Yeah, go ahead. Get down, buddy. Give me just a second.
No worries, man.
We got a monkey in here climbing. Down we go, bud. You want this? There we go. Right. Go play, you rascal. Oh man, kids, they keep you busy, that's for sure.
That they do. Yeah, so by the time we get to what would become ministry transition, a friend of mine was a vocal teacher, so she helped me out, and I kind of, and then from then on, really, I've kind of dipped in and out of having some like vocal lessons and stuff, and just accepting it's kind of funny about high register, because that is my natural voice. So I'm trying to incorporate that more for nothing more than knowing that that's the right way I should be thinking. Mm-hmm. In terms of kind of like I must sing a certain way. No, I was just like, I just got to do it, And as it's going, I obviously thought I've realized like let's change some things up, let's learn some new things, let's try. I mean, now that it is just me doing all the music, I've had to I'm self-taught really. I don't know music theory. I've blagged it all this time. And we always used to say, the rest of the guys in the band, when we were a live band, like one guy knew music theory quite like really well, and like production. That was Chris. Then our bassist Rob, he knew music theory a bit. Adam and I know music theory, so but we were more like, just play a thing, that sounds cool, keep it, so like, and I used to say, like, if we put all of our skill sets together, we would be a fully formed like musician. So yeah, and I said it was just so doing it now, obviously I've had to brush up, I've had to learn a bit, I've had to like make cheat sheets about the scales and all the rest of it, and that, and stick them on the wall or whatever, and because there was an element of I want to progress it more than before, and change it up a bit and make it a bit newer and fresher and learn some new things. And again, that sense of like, all on me now. So I have to kind of, more strings to the bow to, in my head, get it to where, at the very least, where we were when we did Ministry Transition, because that was the last album where it was a full band.
Right.
But yeah, no, my voice has been been a bone of contention for a lot of people. But then I was also a bit like touching what you said about kind of. I do think within metal music now, there is an element of like there's obviously like an idea of higher production levels,
right?
And you know,
Absolutely.
software now can do a lot for not a lot of money, which is fine. But I think there's also an element of kind of, as you were saying, perfect. And it's like metal and punk's not meant to be perfect. Rock and roll's not meant to
It's
be perfect.
not. Yeah.
Obviously, within like rock and metal, yes, of course, we, you know, particularly with guitarists. Well, with all guitarists, bassists, drummers, but generally it's normally guitarists that are kind of, you know, you got guitarists who, yeah, are amazing guitarists and have this high level of skill and, you know, accuracy, like Dimebag, Van Halen, you know, like the list goes on. And yeah, because they you know, oh, I've forgotten his name now. Children of Bodom.
Oh, Alexi.
That was it, Alexi. Yeah. Of course, they had a high level of skill, and that's awesome. That is part of metal and stuff. But generally, even with that high level skill, it's more about just play it when you want to play, as opposed to like high level skill, right? You know, because if you really know, like if you really learn music and music theory, because of its very nature, you could write any kind of song by the numbers because you know the scales that go with that,
right?
And you know, so I think there was an element now where, yeah, it's perceived. At least I feel sometimes it's perceived that it isn't metal unless it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and anything outside of that now is kind of looked at because it's almost like the expectation now is it has to be extreme vocals and another vocalist that will do clean. And that's fine. I'm not knocking it as a thing. And by all means, that's what suits what you want to put out. But there are other things outside of that to express yourself. And I just think it's become a bit too narrowed and like, you know.
Yeah. JT and I talk about that very thing quite a lot. And he actually just said so much music today from metal, especially, sounds formulaic, right? And there's in every era of music, right? That point always gets met where everything's just kind of being oversaturated in the market. Everything's just sounding so like, you know, and it's like nobody wants to just take themselves outside of that bubble and stand outside of it because that's uncomfortable now and it's like taboo, you know, to not be the same as everything else is. And you've been saying it this whole entire stream almost, you know, things like that. And that's why I can't get into like a lot of the mainstream music. I listen to mainstream music, you know, I listen to Disturbed, I listen to Seether, you know, Breaking Benjamin, as far as like, you know, the kind of music I'm into. And, you know, I even listen to Hardy, you know, and he's like freaking super typical, you know, but there's something in his music that I like that, you know, catches my attention. So, you know, I listen to it here and there. But the point that you've made over and over again in the stream that I'm just reaffirming is nobody wants to just be them anymore. They're giving into that peer pressure so they could be on those big national gigs. They could get that notice from the record labels, you know, the majors and stuff. And nobody takes risks anymore. And you have bands that go out there and say that, oh, we're taking risks and stuff, you know, like I Prevail, or, you know, because they used to be a cover band, you know, they covered, you know, pop songs and made them metal and stuff like that. And I think they're great players and everything, but they're just super typical, you know. I wish this point in you know, music didn't get met so often where things just are all the same, you know, because it just makes it so stagnant and boring, you know. And again, that's what I appreciate about what you do. It's not typical, and you've made that was intentional, it sounds like, for you, because you just want to make what you wanted to make and what you heard in your head.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I also the thing I also like to do is kind of do sort of like, well, sort of juxtapositions. So like I could write lyrically, for example, something that if you just read it off the page, you'd be like, wow, that's going to be really dark. That's going to be really like death metal heavy. And I'd be like, well, I think we should put it to this quite upbeat, cheesy punk riff. And that's kind of what we do. I mean, the amount of times that like it was quite funny actually. So when we were a live band, there was me, obviously Spawn. There was my partners in crime, my brothers, Adam, who was Drag. He was the as in that was his stage name, Drag. As a guitarist, we had Chris, who stage name was Razor, aka German, because he's half German. And Rob Chaos, who was the bassist. And German was much more. We all listened to similar bands. Some bands we listened to the same, and each of us had some bands that the others didn't listen to or whatever. But in kind of comparison, like German would be very much like, I've got a riff, guys, and it'd be a really cool riff. And you could see though, like he's full about like technically. And then me and Adam would be like, yeah, we got some riffs too. And we ended up when me and Adam would write stuff. We sort of have like our own little meter in our head of like how cheesy is the riff. Like and cheesy, like, and I end up, I mean, I probably still do it to this day when I'm writing riffs and stuff, but I would always end up with this sort of little jumpy end tail to a riff, right? And we'd write music and I'd be like, how cheesy is it? And like Adam would be like, kind of like, it was probably at cheese ball level cheesy, but it's all right. And that's the thing. And then it would all culminate together, and you would end up with a song which, lyrically might be, like I said, about something really quite dark or personal.
Right.
But the riff is just like 80s metal, that kind of crossover 80s sort of like groove of punk, but metal sensibility, which was not
right.
Or it lyrically might be something quite tame and opinion piece, but it's like the heaviest riff we came up with at the time. So it was literally always that kind of like, and even now, just me writing on my own, that still is in there of like kind of. Sometimes I've got music written or ideas, but no lyrics, and the lyrics will come because I'm inspired by something, or it'll be the other way around of I've written some lyrics and that inspires the music. It depends on what happens, at the time.
Right.
So there was never any like, right, we're gonna write this song today. Do you know what I mean? Or the only thing we kind of had as a common theme when we were releasing stuff, which I still do today, is that there is some sort of a theme that ties it all together. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like every song matches the theme, if that makes sense, but that there's generally a theme that ties it all together as a selection of songs, as the artwork for the CD, as the whole, all that kind of stuff. So, but outside of that, it was just we just would play instruments and write stuff, and literally sometimes force it together. Which had some interesting moments, and but yeah, it's just how we were, it's what we did.
I mean, that sounds like a whole lot of fun to me,
Well, lots of which is funny.
Yeah.
Because German would sometimes be like I said, he'd have this serious riff, very cool, heavy, serious riff, and we'd be like, we got this, and he'd kind of look at us a bit like, how are we gonna get those two things don't go together? And we're like, we'll make it work, it's fine. If in doubt, drum fill, it's fine, it's good, don't worry. So like, so yeah.
Where is it at? Oh, wrong record. That's why. So, Freak Show Pandemic, I remember you saying with JT that was like your guys' first record that you actually went in with some kind of budget, right? When you made it?
Yeah. We did for once. Yeah, that was we we planned it out. We budgeted. I think we spent, I don't know, what was it, like over £1,000, I think, when it was all in, which admittedly isn't a lot for a record, generally speaking. And we went to Parlour Studios, which is up here in the UK in a place called Kettering, and lots of bands have gone there over the years. Evil recorded an album there. Demi Borgir recorded an album there.
Some big names,
So we get there, and in true Psychosis fashion, though, we're going to get this all done in a week. So
bang it all out.
Yeah. So we turn up. We were prepared. We were prepped, and as you probably heard me say on JT's stream 3 months back, it then went wrong. So we were all prepped. We had everything ready. We had all our drum samples and all the other things. And it was literally really just re-recording vocals and guitars and then using better software to do some funky stuff with the drum programming and sort of the synth sounds and the rest of it. And I think on the first day, we discovered the thing is we never ever actually figured out what went wrong or why. The first thing was our samples on all that were like were not there, or they were all corrupted. So the first day and night was literally just, again, Graham Waller produced it with us, was just him and German sitting up all the first day and night reprocessing all that the MIDI drums and synths and samples and stuff. There was lots of copies by them. And then, we just did it. And then it sounded amazing. We mixed and mastered it there. So in a week, recording it, mixing and mastering it. But then when we got it back, something happened. Something must have not been turned on the output or something when it was mastered.
It almost sounds like a Spinal Tap kind of thing.
Right. And then Graham, bless him, he had to reverse engineer it all in his own little studio. So initially, for me, when we did it anyway, we released it and it was cool. And then I had these moments of listening back to it for a while, being like, man, it just isn't, it didn't hit what we should have done. And we always seem to have bad luck with something would always happen. But then equally, as time's gone as well, it's, as I say, it's very much though a moment in history. Do you know what I mean? All our releases are like a kind of moment in history. And many funny stories about stuff that was going on when we were doing that, and just ridiculous stuff. I think I said on JT's, we on the first day we got there, we get there, we load all the gear in, and then we're like, because they had living quarters there as well, so we literally lived there for a week, in a proper studio, we're doing it properly and all this kind of stuff. And then we went to the supermarket to buy food, and we literally just bought loads of Haribo. For some reason, because we went, maybe we should eat something healthy. and then I think we bought pasta and meat, and we were a bit we don't really And then it was a bit of cabin fever for a week as well. At one point, Adam and I just wanted to eat pears, but they weren't ripe. So we ended up doing Pear Watch, where we would just be sitting there being are they ripe yet? No, not soft enough. No, they're too. Yeah. Like you say, kind of Spinal Tap stuff in a way. But do you know what I mean? That's what it's about. It's about you and your mates making art, making music, being creative, and the stories that kind of intertwine with the making of it. You know what I mean? Rather than it being all serious stuff.
Yeah, that's nice. You there's a lot of albums that I've listened to in my life where I sat after the first listen and hundreds of listens later, and I'm like, man, I wonder what kind of things went on when they were making this music and how it translated to the songs and stuff. So it's cool to have a story to put with Freak Show Pandemic and just kind of the stuff that happened throughout, like corrupted files and all that stuff, and just things not wanting to pan out the way you hoped, or just unexpectedly take the turns, and just makes it memorable.
Well, yeah, we literally had to kind of jerry rig it together by the end of it. And I mean, also, on that album is the track Mother, which is obviously a very personal thing for me. And and that was something that at that time in my life, I needed to do that. I needed to have that song out there. And while recording the vocals, I break down while doing it, and it was a whole emotional thing. But it needed to be. So there are, but like I say, it was never simple with us. Nothing was simple. There was always some. God, I got so many stories. There's too many, but there was all. It was all. But that was the point. It was fun. Do you know what I mean? It's meant to be fun. Your bandmates who are meant to be your brothers or sisters or whatever in your band, and you're meant to be able to making this common goal of the thing and having fun with it and not taking it too seriously. Like I said, when we messed up on stage, we didn't stop. You know what I mean? And kind of stare at the crowd and go, we were just like, yeah, you messed that up, didn't you? Or, random other things that I would say to the crowd. And sometimes they wouldn't get it, and sometimes they would get it, and they'd have a laugh as well. And
you own the moments.
Yes.
You own them. Like, that's something that a lot of the bands I listen to from like the 80s and like mid to late 70s have stories where when they were coming up that from musicians that they looked up to in bands that they either grew up listening to or whatever, would tell them that when you're up on stage and you're playing, one of the worst things you could do is just freeze up or stop the show because it's not going off. It's not happening without any hang-ups, right? But instead, take those hang-ups and just roll with them and make it like it's part of the show.
Yeah, I mean,
so I admire that. I've seen many, many, many bands live where stuff like that has happened. Like one recent is when I saw Seether with my wife, and I think it was something to do with their guitars and their amps. They weren't getting sound through their guitars. And so what Sean does is he goes up into the front of the stage with maracas and he starts dancing for the crowd, you know? And I'm just like, that's exactly what you do. You don't let it affect you in a negative way. You just own it and make it something else,
Yeah, I mean, two things. Well, actually, there's more. So I think 3 standout moments of stuff went wrong on stage and we just laughed it off, or in one case completely blagged it. So let's say we went, when it came to playing live, we went for a different sort of technological sort of ways to do it. And again, as I said at the start, it's like we were always also like, you may do with what you got, right? So at start, it was a laptop, but it wasn't like a MacBook. It was just whatever laptop I had at the time. And then it was the actual physical drum machine. Right. And then it was a actual mixing desk that had a hard drive. So therefore we could have, the drums and the synths and all the other weird noises and blips and bloops on different faders. And then it was an Apple Mac with Ableton, which became the standpoint. So one gig when we were doing the mixing desk way of doing it. So we had the mixing desk that had all the blips and bloops and the weird noises and the synths. And we were using the drum machine, the physical drum machine, for the drums. And they were linked by MIDI, right? And so the drum machine was the master in MIDI terms, and the desk was the slave, right? And that's all fine. And all I had to do between songs was just change the tempo on the mixing desk so it matched drum, right? And I had, masking tape on the faders saying what every fader did, and it was all there, right? I had it all written out, right? It was even written on like the set lists. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It was all there. And we went. I think we played Survivor, and I didn't realise it was still on the previous song's tempo, which was a lot faster than Survivor. And I just hit play because I was like, yeah, this is Survivor, and play. And it starts, and because it starts with like a drum roll thing, we just went for it, like naturally. So we're doing it. So everyone's naturally playing it faster, but they all like, there's Adam and Rob and Jem like looking at me, and I'm like, and things are a bit faster than normal, which guitar wise we could blag, but then I'm thinking, oh Jesus Christ, it is faster. I don't want to stop it, so I'm having to sing it so much faster than it's meant to be, and I was not catching my breath in the right way, and we just powered through it. That was one time. No one noticed. They thought it was a great thing. And another time we were getting set up for so because of the way we did stuff, I would kind of, like I said, I'd chat to the crowd or whatever, and I was like, okay, this next song is whatever it was. And I'm about to press play, and Adam was still tuning his guitar, and he goes, wait. Then it sort of goes silent, and we're all sort of looking at him, and he's just like, ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, and me and him are always like an old married couple anyway. Like, he is literally my wife. I even, when I'm signing cards and like presents at Christmas to like him, it's always to my wife. And to his like girlfriend, who's been with for years now, I'm always like, to my wife's bit on the side. So he's sitting there tuning his guitar, and like an old married couple, I'm like, are you ready yet? He's like, are you ready? The people are waiting. Like, you know, just that was the whole banter on stage, and you know, people laugh at it because it's like, well, you know, you might as well laugh at it. And like I said, I would interact with the crowd, and some of them would be a bit freaked out by it. Some people found it funny. Some people didn't know what to do, which just makes me be my stage persona even more. So, but yeah, it's just you know, we don't get me wrong, we took what we did seriously. Do you know what I mean? We were there to do a job. We played a show, but we didn't, you know, we accepted that stuff happens, and it was better to roll with it than get angry about it or
100%
freeze and then be like, I mean, I think once or twice something's happened and we've actually gone, let's start that again, and like just start the song again because of the technological stuff. But again, it's just kind of, you roll with it.
In any kind of capacity, have you planned on trying to return to any kind of stage at all?
I have to. Like, I mean, you know, as I say, stuff beyond everyone's control kind of happened in people's lives. And that kind of started a decline. And in the end, you know, everybody had stuff to do. Like I said, life happened in a big way for all of us in different ways. In an ideal world, we would have had our sort of like last hurrah, because we were kind of like, you know, if this doesn't pan out now, we should have a, like, you know, a last hurrah kind of thing and be like, last set of shows, go on a high note. And that didn't happen because of various things, and that's something I regret. But you know, the guys have got like stuff going in their lives now. It's not really as much. So I would love to get it all back together. And in terms of me, I would love to get back on stage stuff. But it's the thing with going back to about how I ended up doing this and kind of going against the grain and all the rest of it. It was quite a big deal for me letting people in onto it, because it was so, well, this is this idea I've got. And I was very fortunate to find people that got it, you know, and wanted to play in my band, because there have been previous people before that, and some of them got embroiled in the hate. Even it was like, but you were part of that song. Why are you? But now it just didn't make sense, you know. So it's kind of a trust thing. So it's kind of like, you know, I'd have to really go out there and find the right people again. And then it comes back to what I said before of, I could spend the time doing that, but I probably wouldn't be putting anything out in the way I like to, because I'm so concerned with that. And like I said, life's different for me now as it is for everyone now. So it's not as easy to just get together and stuff. So if it happened, it would be great. But like I said, I'm trying to think of, again, using what I've got and like the tools of the internet and stuff to do something a bit different to try and get stuff out still.
Yeah.
See, as I say, I've got to do it because it keeps me sane. I have to be doing something creative, otherwise, like, I just even more dysfunctional. So, you know, but yeah, I'd love to get back on stage and play gigs again and stuff. But you know,
I mean, I think you're doing it the right way as far as like whether or not you get on a stage again. Like, you don't want to like force that hand to kind of happen, like, especially if it doesn't sound like it's something that's feasible at the right now for you. 100% just do what you've been doing, because otherwise it's just not gonna. Maybe something will just come up if you do plan a show, and then you have to cancel it or something because it's kind of premature,
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I've often thought like, well, I don't necessarily need, because like I said, like I said, I'm still friends like with the guys that are in my band.
yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah,
it was real like a brotherhood, and if they all went, well, let's do it, I'd be like, yes, and I would literally make it work. I would change things going on for me to make it work, right? But I've often thought like, okay, well, I don't need that again. I just need like musicians. So the whole route of I'll write everything again. It'll just be me writing it, and I get some musicians and say like, this is what you got to play, and but that could work. And if they're into theatric stuff as well, that could work. But obviously, again, though, sometimes that's not the best way, because sometimes the musicians there to be musicians, but they don't necessarily get behind the full project, because they're just like, okay, I'll be a guitarist for this show, and I would like you to pay me X amount to do it. So it's kind of, as you say, it's got to be right. If it's not right, it's not going to work properly.
Well, what do you think of this? JT wants to book you for his living room.
Does he now? Well, he needs to pay for the flights to the States. Somewhere for me to crash. Any issues with your border control people?
Yeah. Oh man, our border control could be assholes.
So he just wants me in his house. It's got nothing to do with playing.
Yeah, you'd probably never get out. He'd probably lock you up in some room.
Exactly. He'd be like he'd be making me write his music for him probably, which would be fun. But yeah, it's just all part of his cunning plan to like just kidnap me in the States.
Well, It sounds like you're off the hook, because he says no, that's all on you. I'm a horrible booker. So yeah. You guys need to collaborate on a track, though. By the way, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, I have hinted at that with JT, like an actual something like we write together kind of thing. And,
yeah, you should.
And I obviously he wanted to do a cover of Motionless in White, I think it was.
I could hear you pulling that off. Yeah.
And I was like, I'll give it a whirl, like on certain bits. So I'm all for that now. I'm all for like doing collabs with people and stuff. I think especially now, I think like, I mean, I don't know what it's like over in the States when it comes to like venues and stuff. Obviously, America are a far bigger landmass with everything. Yeah. But over here in the UK, venues are closing down. There's not so many venues to play. There's issues around, band. You don't get. I mean, when we were gigging in London, we sold tickets. We never got paid. I mean, financially, our whole goal was just that we'd like to think that it funded itself eventually. Like we're making some money selling merch and playing gigs, and you reinvest it into the projects, and it's less money from our own jobs kind of thing. But we were never like, we expect to be millionaires. We just would like it to fund it. But over here, there's lots of issues now about the cost of touring and bands come into the UK because of Brexit and and it's a big drama. And to be honest, when it's all said and done, it's all just bureaucracy and pieces of paper. That's really all it is, and it could be made far simpler. It doesn't really have anything necessarily to do with any kind of political thing, because at the end of the day, it's all still paperwork and just someone making a decision. So yeah, we're losing venues, so it's kind of like we need to be working together than
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on over here in the States too. Like about that whole Blue Ridge fiasco from last year, and like
I saw that. Yeah.
And there's venues closing down here every day, and it's just like we've got that thing going on, not just in the States, but it is in the States where bands are fighting merch cuts the venues take from them, when really it's not their merchandise to take a cut from in the first place, in my head. And so there's that going on.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was actually a really genius idea. I can't remember if I saw it or who said it, but there was some post about that. There was a band saying about, or solidarity with don't take merch cuts. Your venue shouldn't be doing that. And someone said, easy way to get around it. You bring your merch to your show, but what you do is you set it as pre-orders. So you tell everyone, oh, we're playing the such and such gig. Buy your merch on our website now.
Hey, yeah. I mean,
and then we'll give it to you at the gig because there's no money changing hands. So there's nothing for the venue to take.
Honestly, that is a great idea because that completely cuts them out. The venue,
no money transfer. So they pre-ordered it a week ago, and they're picking it.
What's messed up is I could still see the venue say, "Well, since you're still bringing the merch to the venue, we're still going to try and get something from you because of that."
Yeah, I'm sure they would, but mine's would be the legal kind of precedent wouldn't be there because you're like, but no one is giving me money here. No money has changed hands. The money has changed hands outside of the venue online or whatever, and that you have no right to have that because that's now a PayPal or whatever.
And the cuts they take, it's ridiculous too. Like it's like you're being gouged from your pocket at venues, and then like you were bringing up, like the cost to even tour, especially now, is just insane. Like I don't remember what band it was, but they posted up the cost of just doing like even a 7-show run was like ridiculous. They're like, this is why it's so hard to go out and tour for even 15 shows, because of all this, and I'm just like,
it's also kind of become, I think it's one of those things now where it's kind of just like a circle now, and to a degree we've kind of done it to ourselves.
Oh yeah,
as kind of creatives, because like growing up and listening to the bands that I listened to growing up, or even bands that were like way before I was born, but I'm being exposed to as I grew up, there was always the common theme of, really look into it, there were venues and you would just go, you would play the pub, like even in the UK, pubs would have back rooms and you'd play a gig and there wouldn't be no like, or how many people you bring in or how much money you charge on the door. It was just, whatever, mate. Yeah, cool, book the room. You book the room, give the landlord his 100 quid or whatever. People went out more socializing. You had the boom in like the teenager from like the 50s onwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we had all these kind of social things going on. And there was the concept of you're poor as a band, you play loads of gigs, label people would be at gigs, you got seen.
Right.
There wasn't so much stuff all at one time going on. And then you become rich and famous, supposedly, but as we now know, in actuality, they made money. Of course they made money, all these historical bands, and they had their mansions and stuff. But even then, the labels were taking massive cuts. But they were still getting paid, and the way royalties were split were like, okay, every CD that gets sold, label takes X percent, you take X percent, and it made more sense, like financially, mathematically, and we all went along with it. When we make it, that's when it happens. When you make it, and then we had the advent of something that I got in when I was like, nope, I'm doing a band. This is what we're doing. I set up my own record label, fully, as a company and all the rest, incorporated all that jazz, because of the whole thing of, well, if someone does come along, we have a legal foothold to go, no, we license our music to you because we're already on our own thing. So, which I advise any bands to do stuff like that.
It's smart.
Even if nothing comes of it, it was always like, but if it did, you want to make sure you're not getting messed about. But now we live in an age where money's tight, just generally for everyone. Cost of living, like I said, especially here in the UK, and the digital realm and Spotify, that we all in some way or another begrudgingly, use. I mean, I only put our stuff on Spotify in 2021 or 2022 because I was like, no, not doing it. Bandcamp. If you want it, go to Bandcamp. So in the end, there was an element where you kind of have to concede to it begrudgingly.
Right.
And I do use Spotify to listen to stuff, but I still buy CDs, and I've got a big old box of CDs, and I'm like, because they're mine, and also like, there's history attached to that. I can pick up an album and be like, I remember when I bought that, why I bought it, what was going on, you know, why I liked the art, all that stuff. You don't get that with just digital.
Yeah.
And there is so much content, and it's very fleeting.
Yeah.
So, but we've done it to ourselves. So
yeah, did you see any of JT's stream with Crystal where they touched on that about how?
No, I've got out the loop. JT,
yeah.
Sorry, JT, but you live on you know you do the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just like
Well, what you're talking about, they covered about in like a 5 to 10 minute segment about how it's almost like stuff like CDs. I mean, even though vinyl's made like a comeback in some capacity over the recent years, as a whole, though, like the physical form of music is dying out, right? And like you still see it out there, obviously, and it may not look like to the average person that it's dying, but if you're paying attention, these streaming companies or just streaming in general, that eventually is going to become the way it's all distributed, unless something else happens.
I mean, I agree, but I think there is also a bit of a shift in that. So I over here anyway, I've seen like a lot more kind of, for example, like T-shirt printing
Right.
companies. I'm going to make a bit of a plug here for a friend of mine's business. So a friend of mine, they I think they've been going for a year now. And I'm going to have to remember STMS Printing over here in the UK. And it was set up by a mate of mine who was a DJ, a radio DJ for rock and metal, on a station called Total Biker FM, which was one of the first internet radio stations that played our stuff. And he's been involved he's involved in a little independent festival called Breaking Bands. And the reason his printing company is called STMS Printing is it stands for Save the Music Scene. Because I think you guys had this company as well over in America called Awesome Merchandise. So they were British based, but I think they did kind of have a thing over in America.
I may have heard of it, but I'm not entirely sure.
For quite a long time, they were really good and they were very well priced. And then it all fell apart. And when it fell apart, loads of bands and musicians and stuff were like, and other businesses obviously were like, but where's my order? And it was a whole thing. So off the back of that, my mate kind of set up his company to help out. So I'm seeing more and more kind of like little businesses that are to do with physical merch for musicians and stuff. And I think also at the moment, in the wider sense of digital stuff, there's a bit of a shift because people are realizing. I think it's come more from the gaming side of things actually, like that. With Xbox and PlayStation 5s and their digital-only consoles, everyone's cool with that until they start realizing, oh, wait, I don't actually own the thing I bought from you. It's technically like a subscription kind of thing, even though I paid you 60 quid or $50 for whatever game, because the terms and conditions say, well, you're renting it from us, so we can take it down at any time if we want. And I think people are getting a bit more wise to that. Well, if I'm paying you money for the thing, I should own the thing. Like, I paid you the money for the thing. You don't buy a T-shirt and then Primark or whatever come on, or I guess Target would be the thing in America, right? And we're not selling it anymore, so we have to take it back. Do you know what I mean? Because so I think it's a bit of a shift, or a bit of a waking up in terms of digital media as a concept about ownership. But it is still tough because you're still convinced. Like with anything, if you're selling it to someone, you're convincing them, aren't you? You're convincing them of why they should buy it, and there are sort of little technological things happening. I know there's people do things like T-shirts, but within the T-shirt is either going to be like a little thing, an NFT chip or a QR code or something like that. So you buy the T-shirt, but you scan the picture and you have the album, for example, which is using. There's a bit of a give and take. Ideally, I would like everyone to buy my CDs or the music from Bandcamp. but I've had to kind of, make decisions and stuff. I mean, that's why, like, now I'm going to do a selfless plug. So right now, obviously, if you go on our Bandcamp and you do want physical CDs, you can get the Minish Transition and the Anno Diablo Volume 1 EP and the Spirit of DIY compilation, which I'll basically just show at the camera. Spirit of
Yeah, you should.
You get that.
Yeah.
That. And that. And whatever else I can find to chuck in the box. And it's literally 50p. Or I think last time I checked, I think that's 62 cents or 64 cents. And you just pay the postage, because I'm just like, you know what, let's get these last copies out there. And I would have actually made it free and just pay postage, but Bandcamp doesn't let you do that with physical merch. So we will have to do a bit of leeway. Yeah, you can make digital stuff free, but physical merch has to be, so for British currency, it has to be a minimum of 50p. So you get all that for 50p plus your postage, because just, I want to get the stuff, gone, because there's an element for me of starting fresh and kind of, like I say, because even with what I'm planning to hopefully do with all the stuff, I still want to make a physical thing, and I might go down the route of doing it as a pre-order kind of thing, so I know an exact number rather than, but because even as I say, even though I've been doing tracks as singles and digitally releasing them, I'm still like, I still want to put it on a CD, and there is a theme that will link them all together, so it makes sense to my creative mind. And but yeah, it's kind of we have to accept the digital thing, but I think, like I said, people are waking up to it a bit of what that means. In terms of ownership, like when you pay money for something digitally, who owns it? Do you actually own it? So, but again, the biggest thing is just this notion of paying people fairly for their art,
Yeah,
and
I 100% agree.
It's that weird thing where we go, no, that you've probably seen all the memes about like, oh, I'll pay you in exposure, I'm giving you exposure. And then people say like, well, you wouldn't say to a plumber, no, I'm going to pay you. I've given you exposure as a plumber. Do you know what I mean? But when it comes to art, it's this weird thing of, as an outsider looking in, you think, wow, they make loads of money by not doing a lot because they just do their creative thing. But at the same time, we're like, I like what you do, but I don't want to pay for it. Yeah, and that is actually what someone said to me once. Back in the day when we were starting out, and I think we did our first album, Children of Pandora, and we're throwing it up on YouTube and make little videos and blah blah blah. And someone was like, I really like this song, dude. And I was like, cool, well, here's the link to Bandcamp or whatever it would have been at the time. And they're like, no, I don't want to pay for it. You're starting out. Well, I don't want to pay for it. I mean, it's cool, dude. I like it, but you're starting out. I don't want to pay for it. And it's like,
yeah, that's some very bizarre thinking right there that they had about that. It's like, so typically with music, you like it, you purchase it to support the artist, right?
Well, you think so.
But then like what you're saying there is like, they say they like the song, but they don't want to fork out their money.
No, they just want it for free.
Yeah, it's like, well,
okay,
do they not put them in your shoes? If they were hearing that from you, I'm sure they'd think exactly what you did. Like, wait, what? It's like
it's a weird thing that we've kind of done with art in general, music, all of it, music, animation, traditional art, all of it. There's a whole load of things, and obviously, I know of late there's been lots of things to do with the gaming industry about all these big, gaming studios that we've all known, we've played some of their games. Then it turns out, this AAA game is not fit for purpose when it comes out. The team behind it have been like, crunched to the limit of like, time, and they're not actually getting paid fairly, or not being paid for the hours they put in fully. And it's, but because the higher ups are the ones making that money, opposed to people actually doing the work, so.
Yeah. I call that complacency from the top down. The people at the bottom know what's fair and what they should be getting, what their worth is. But the people at the top don't want to make that compensation fair because in some sense, at least in my head, it takes away from them and what they're getting in their pocket. And that's why they don't want to make the changes, because it's going to take more money from them to give their workforce a fair wage or fair compensation. And I also think that that's just wild. Thinking, why should you get more for doing almost none of the work versus who's doing all of the work, you know? And you have that thinking in your job from your bosses in almost in any kind of industry. It's everywhere. And I'm just like I'm at work, and like if I get told by my boss something and they're saying, oh, they want this, this, and this, and I'm standing there, I'm like, so this is somebody that sits in a cubicle in some executive building in, like, I can't remember what state my job's headquarters is based, but they're making these decisions like they actually are here physically doing the job. And I'm just like, what you're telling me doesn't make any sense to do it that way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, I've like with the Spotify argument, I know people that put the argument forth of, you know, actually Spotify is quite a good deal, because if you think about it, you like with the most recent changes on Spotify, one of the arguments was, I can't remember if it was kind of originally pitched by Spotify themselves, was that, you know, the recent thing of like, you're not going to get paid if your track doesn't have X amount of a minimum of like a benchmark of streams or whatever. And their argument was, it's because, you know, we, like me and everybody else, you know, we pay like DistroKid. So we pay DistroKid to put the thing on all the sites, including Spotify. And then Spotify and all the other sites will send the money to DistroKid. And then DistroKid have a minimum, or you got to wait till you got whatever it is, $10 or whatever it is, I can't remember, before you can, you know, deduct it into your bank account. And Spotify's argument was, well, that's what's holding it all up. So it's not us, it's the fact that there's all these aggregators and all the rest of it. And it's like, okay, but the only reason there's aggregators like DistroKid, and before them it would have been, you know, like CD Baby and TuneCore and all the rest of it, is because Spotify and iTunes and everybody else back in the day, especially, you couldn't just be a band and go to iTunes and put your track on there, because they were like, no, it has to go through this affiliate thing. So that's why companies like DistroKid started. So they kind of made the problem at the start by saying, like, you couldn't directly go without some sort of industry backdoor into it, to put your music on Spotify. So it's kind of this reciprocal thing. And yeah, you know what? Okay, supposedly Spotify doesn't make as much money as we think. And, you know, yes, Spotify is free generally for everyone, unless you wish to pay for it, so you don't have ads. But it's just a reciprocal thing, because, you know, I think they said 1% of Spotify is actually the people that make money. It's the big names. And I might be wrong. I read somewhere that Spotify's existence only came to be because the guy who came up with it pitched to all the major labels and said, I'm going to do this thing, and this is how it will be. And the label was like, well, we're not going to make any money then. And he was kind of like, well, if you're shareholders, you're going to make money from your artists anyway, and you're going to be shareholders. So you'll make money from the company. And that's kind of where it sort of started. That's my understanding of it anyway. I could be wrong. I'm sure people might, like, you know, say I was wrong, whatever, but it's just stuff I've kind of read and whatever. But again, then we get into the weirdness of maths. I've always said that, like, this is why we price stuff. Like, when we would price our material, it's like a track's £1 because it makes sense. And then, okay, so we've got 12 songs on an album, so that's £12, but we'll make it 10 because it's a CD. So it's £10. You're getting 2 tracks free. Like, and obviously when it comes to figuring out stream maths of why you get like 0.000, it just doesn't make sense. Like, even I don't know how old the actual interview is, but I recently saw it of Snoop Dogg going, none of it makes sense to me because my publishers gave me a royalty check recently, and I'm like, explain this to me. How have I had X amount of millions of streams and I've only got this, when back in the day I only needed to sell like 1,000 CDs and I was making X much or whatever it was, you know? And he's like, it makes no sense, because it doesn't make sense, because their model is like not just simple maths. Because I watched someone explaining it, that they get all their money, they pay their overheads, and then they look at the money left over. Basically, you could listen whatever your ultimate favorite band is. You could listen to that every day for the rest of your life, all their material, and be in the thought of, well, I've listened to it this many times, so they're going to get X amount of money. It's not how it works. Spotify take the money my understanding is they take the money after the overheads, and they basically disseminate that money to the highest percentage people, which are going to be your Taylor Swifts and
Yeah.
And then yes, of course, metal band. There are big metal bands and punk bands. We hope are making money. Gary Newman, I know he posted once a picture of his check from Spotify, and he got like 50 quid, I think it was, or something and it's like, that's Gary Newman. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and he still tours and stuff, and I think does it all off his own back and all the rest of it. So, it's just doesn't. It's a weird model.
Yeah.
And I know there are people trying to make alternatives. I know there's a couple of metal bands or something in Europe that are trying to, like, big metal bands. I can't remember who it is, but they're trying to like do their own version. And it's more the notion of, I think their model would be you pay your subscription fee to the service, but it's literally like, but whoever you listen to, they get money because you've listened to them. If that makes sense, rather than the Spotify model. So if you listen to, I don't know, whoever,
right,
every day, you, Breaking Benjamin, will be getting money from your subscription.
Huh.
Does that make sense? It's kind of like, but again, it's but equally we've done it to ourselves. We've let it happen in a way, and it is what it is. And you've just got to try and work within it, or change it from within. And it's not even a new tactic. Like back in the day, so when I don't know if you ever had it in America, we had like an independent music chart here in the UK at one point, which the Musicians Union, I think, kind of pitched for. They were like, there needs to be a music chart for independent musicians. It's not interfered with by the major labels. And so it came to be. But then what the major labels did was, like Sony, for example, they made other record labels that were indie labels because they weren't major and their financial turnover was not
right.
They would then sign bands through these independent labels and be like, well, you signed with us, we were in a subsidiary of Sony because we can fast track you to Sony. So that way, the major labels were influencing the independent music, and like the Musicians Union were like, that's not. They actually signed to Sony, not an independent label. So it was a whole thing of kind of like behind the scenes messing around.
And just like, I think about all the time how I wanted to be in the industry making music and stuff, and I used to want to be on a label and just make all that happen. But the more I hear about things, the less I want anything to do with the big industry side of it.
I mean, the truth is, I mean, like I said, like when I started our label, so we, my band did our thing, but I was like wanting to help other bands, but it didn't work out, and it was a lot of stress and stuff. But also, as I kind of got on with it, I was like, you know what, people can just do this themselves, and they kind of should. Like, they should do what we did, and then you're future-proofing what may or may not come your way, sort of thing. Because you can do, especially with technologies and now and stuff. It's like when you were saying before we came on live about figuring out to do your intros. I was thinking to myself, if it's like you don't know how to, you don't have the software or whatever, just use Canva. It's free. Like, and you can, like, I do a lot of like when I'm doing my TikTok videos with the graphics and stuff, and that's with Canva.
Yeah, I actually have Canva, and then I haven't delved in to try and do that yet with my intros. Because for some reason, I assume it is easy, but for some reason I get in my head that it's complicated. Right?
It is really easy, and I mean I basically, for me, I use the free Canva, and unless I'm doing a lot of like I've got a song coming out, so I do, and so I will pay for like a month or whatever, because when you've got the paid subscription, if you're doing video work, you want to make it's the same video, but you know, you want a YouTube resolution version and a TikTok you know, the frames are right. So when you pay for Canva, you can just click a button and it magically does it right. So when I know I'm doing a lot of like promo on something, I'll pay for it for a month, make it all in a month, and then kind of use it for you know, outside of that month kind of thing. So I've already made the content and changed it, but yeah, other than that, a lot of it I'm just you know, it's just. And that's the thing. When we started, I mean, I did film and that at art college. So, but when we started, you know, you know, you had YouTube, but you were still having to have paid for software to do a lot of audio visual stuff still. So I was always like, oh, I'm just using like, you know, iMovie, and why does it not look right when it's on YouTube and stuff? And now there's Canva and other things. I also use like Bead and Video Bolt for when I'm doing like lyric videos and stuff. Because now there's a lot of free, or you can make your thing for free, but then you just pay an amount just to render it in high res. There's a lot more tools to be able to do.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so there's a lot more tools, but I think there is still a place for record labels in the sense of believing in independent artists, putting some money behind them to get them going. But yeah, this notion of you have to have a named label to do X, Y, Z and get stuff out there isn't the case anymore. I mean, you can
it's definitely not. Like there's DIY like yourself all over now, and it's like, yeah, it takes time to get it all set up, get yourself going and all that stuff, but it's worth it in the end to be your own distributor, you know, your own you know what I'm saying. It's
you just crack on. You out for yourself at your own pace, and just kind of, I said, my thing was always just making sure if it all panned out great and amazing, and we were in these great opportunities, and we're, you know, making money from it, that we'd basically future-proofed it, and we're like, no, it's all art. We own the rights, and we're all registered with the people you need to be registered with for royalty collection and stuff. And if you want us to be on your big fancy label, okay, cool, but we'll license you our work. So we're going to put it. It's going to be through my label, but we'll license it to you and get a deal.
Before we start wrapping this up, I would like you
again. So
I want you to go ahead and plug your label into this, and then I'm gonna I think I've seen what it's called, but like I said, I have a bad memory sometimes. But I would like you to plug your label in this, just so people can see it, and if they're seeking something, you know, and just all that good stuff. Just, you know, I want to promote you, get, you know, and all that, get the exposure and stuff. So besides that, though, I think I heard you mention new songs that'll be coming out. I don't think you have a timetable. It doesn't sound like it for like the next song, but there are more songs coming down the pipeline, right?
Oh yes. So there's the one I'm currently doing the mixing on and getting all prepped and ready to send to Graham. That was so that's kind of like the last song that was meant to be with Kathy and Proof of Diagnosis and Conform and Cancel and Another DVD Taste, which are the singles I've released over the past year, 2 years, whatever it's been now. And then the other songs, to which I think there's 13, but there's probably going to end up being more. That's going to be released as there's a narrative there. It's kind of how can I describe it? It's like a kind of eldritch tale, or eldritch tale, should I say, depending on how you want to pronounce it, mixed with kind of my own personal stuff that's been going on for me lately, mixed with kind of mental health stuff. And it's a whole like a weird sort of breaking the fourth wall kind of like hopefully it all makes sense when it comes to fruition. So
I'm sure it will.
And there's lots of side things I want to try and get done off of that to help promote it. And it's quite a tall order. So that's going on. And yeah, so you were saying, so if anyone wants to actually kind of, you know, find Spawn Psychosis and stuff, so because I have a website that basically ties both Spawn Psychosis and where I do visual art. I draw, I paint and stuff. So it's like a joint website, and that's ashesandspsychosis.com. He says, and then has to double check because it's been a little while.
I'm gonna write that down on my notepad.
Yeah,
you said Ashes of Psychosis.
It's Ashes and Psychosis, because my like art business kind of thing that I had going for a while was called Ashes to Embers Studios. So there you can see my artwork, some of which I got for sale, and you can find all the Spawn Psychosis stuff, because basically we did have a website, and then in the interim where the band wasn't doing anything and stuff, I stopped kind of paying for the domain, and I was like, no one's ever going to take that domain, and then someone stole the domain. Which now leads to some weird Chinese tech site or something. I don't know, it's very strange. So yeah, ashesandspsychosis.com is like my website. Find Spawn Psychosis on Facebook. The record label was really unimaginatively titled as Dredge Records Limited.
That's right.
But again, it has a Facebook page and stuff, but I don't really use it much because I'm just directly posting about Spawn Psychosis through our Facebook and our Instagram and on our TikTok. And I said 50p merch bundle of stuff, and just pay your postage. So
there's some great stuff there, people. Please buy it.
Want to help a guy out, and obviously we've got Bandcamp. On our Bandcamp as well is basically everything we've ever done, some of which isn't on Spotify, because we've got a couple of tracks on there which were for charity, and I still are for charity. And even if like it's only ever £1, I still donate them to the charities involved. There's a track on there called Phoenix, which was to raise money for a charity called, I actually think they've changed the name now. It was NFUK, and it was a charity that raises money for people that suffer with a condition called neurofibromatosis. And then we've also got a track on there to raise money for an actual American radio station down in Nebraska called KZUM. Because my buddy John Cruz, he does his Metal Manifesto show, and I basically wrote a song about being a metalhead and tied KZUM into the lyrics, and I was like, you know what, dude, here's a track for your show, and tell you what, like the money, say if anyone buys it, I'll send it to you for the radio station. So because
I love it.
That's community awesome. Radio station down in Nebraska. So yeah, so there's some free stuff on there, and that. So yeah, that's where it all is, all our history.
Before I let you go, JT and Patrick Seath and myself have been talking about doing a joint podcast episode. Would you be interested in coming on as the fourth person when we decide when and how we're going to do it?
Yeah, dude, I'm all up for that. I can ramble on to 4 people in one go then. And we'll sort it out. We'll figure a way.
We're really wanting to do that. Just, have a hangout day, chatting about, anything and everything. So,
yeah, man, I'm up for that. I'm up for it. Yeah. We'll just figure out whose time zone we're going to go by.
Well, hey, you're dealing with 3 Americans at this point, and you can tell that we are not good with time.
We're all in different time, because you have 2 time zones, right, in America. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
or do you have more than 2? Because it's East and West, right?
Yeah, there's PST, or PSD, or P. There's a number of them, Yeah, but you're right.
You pick a time zone, and we'll work.
If anybody's gonna write a wrong time down, I have the most likelihood of it, as you can see.
I don't know, JT.
Yeah,
JT just does it to wind me up. Actually, sometimes,
yeah. Anyways, man, like I said, it's been awesome having you on, man.
Oh, thank you.
I was super excited to get you on here when you did your episode with JT, just because of how fun you seemed and how open and to talk about everything you were. And so I'm glad it finally happened. So we're definitely going to have to do it again. I would say I want to try and do it around the time your next song comes out, so that could be promoted.
Yeah, man. I mean, once I kind of, I'm hoping actually either later today or tomorrow I will get more work done on it so that I'm in the position to be able to actually give Graham a call and be like, I'm sending it your way. Here's the instruction book, because I mean, he likes it that way because it makes his life easier. But I literally send him these really detailed notes of like what's going on, what I'm thinking, when stuff starts, what tempos, you know, the amp tones I've used, the whole thing. So hopefully I'll get it off soon. And yeah, by all means, when I know what I'm doing, yeah, I'll give you and JT and everyone else that I know kind of helps out.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely keep you in the loop for that and everything else. I know that they're all down for it. I'm pretty sure it was JT's idea. It might have been
JT idea.
Yeah. So, and we're also going to we'll probably do this at the same time. We were going to rank the Breaking Benjamin discography on an episode. And it's probably going to be that. Like every song.
I've never listened to them. I know who they are. I know do the song for Halo because I remember everyone back in the day getting excited. But yeah, I see that'll be you 3 times. I'll just be sitting there going, It's like,
all right, man.
No, yeah, man, I'm all up for that. We'll have to sort something out. It's been a blast. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing it to my time zone.
It's been a pleasure.
You know, learn from this experience, JT.
Take that.
You know, because I mean, it's staying up to 11 o'clock my time of an evening.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's been a blast, dude. Thank you for having me. And thanks to anyone that's watched this, or either in real time or later on, and who might check out Spawn Psychosis. I'm sure you'll put links and stuff in your description as well. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, dude.
No problem. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll be in touch for sure.
No worries, dude. Have a good one.
You too.
Take care.